Welcome to Stage Left with Lou. I am your host, Lewis Shilvock, but everyone calls me Lou. And today is a very exciting day. Cheers. I am so excited to finally be launching this podcast. So, episode 0, I guess you could call this. I just wanted to use this episode to kind of introduce myself and introduce the podcast and kind of explain where this has come from and what this podcast plans to be. And for those of you that might not know me or might not know me super well, I thought I would kind of formally introduce myself. So I'll start with that. I'm Lewis, but lots of my friends call me Lou. And I am a musical theatre performer, a dancer, a dance teacher, just anything to do with that world is kind of how I identify at the moment. But going right back, I grew up in Adelaide, South Australia, and kind of trained strictly as a dancer, I would say. I trained in hip hop for a really long time growing up, and then kind of transitioned later into contemporary and jazz and ballet and tap and all of those kinds of things. But musical theatre was this like underlying theme throughout kind of my whole childhood, really, and my whole time growing up as a performer. And was kind of just another excuse to get on stage. It felt like I just wanted to be on stage performing with my friends. And, you know, if there wasn't a dance competition or a dance concert, then there was probably a community theatre thing happening. So I'd just jump into that and whatever. So yeah, I kind of grew up with that mentality, and then I was very fortunate to do lots of musicals growing up. I went to a very nice high school that had a very good arts program, and that kind of led me to then leaving Adelaide and leaving home when I was 14 years old. I moved to Melbourne. I moved in with my uncle, and went to a school that's now called Patrick School of the Arts. I did year 10 there in their academy program. And then went on after that to do my full-time training at Dance Force on the Gold Coast, which is this amazing institution. It's kind of on the border of New South Wales and Queensland. So it's very isolated, and I feel like I went there between being kind of 15 and about to turn 18 and trained as a dancer. I was dance, and it was the best training of my entire life and kind of led me on to do some really amazing things. It was at that time, being a dancer, I was doing lots of dance competitions, and I really started taking solos quite seriously at that time, and was really fortunate to win some amazing Australian competitions that then took me to New Zealand and Singapore and Vegas and LA and New York, Atlantic City, Boston, Seattle, everywhere. Like so many cool, awesome, amazing experiences as a dancer. And I still think that the human being that I am today stems from the amazing training that I had at Dance Force under those awesome teachers. So yeah, my first kind of professional job was a few days after I finished my training at Dance Force. I was in the skeleton crew on the Elvis movie. So I worked with, there were like 12 of us brought into a room with the 2 choreographers, and we worked alongside Baz Luhrmann and Austin Butler on the choreo that would be in the movie. And that was like the most surreal thing to experience, but let alone that being my first job. And I just remember looking around and going, oh my God, all of these people are so awesome. And now looking back, I'm like, they're all legends. They're all absolute legends of our industry. And it was just so crazy to be in that room with all of those people, working with Baz Luhrmann. Like, what? So crazy. But I did that. And then I got a message from a producer of a very little known TV show called America's Got Talent, and was very quickly flown over to LA and filmed an episode of that as a soloist, as a dancer. I feel like if you look through YouTube, you could probably find it somewhere. But yeah, I was on AGT, which is really cool, but then was flown back really quickly because COVID was going around. So I had my one and only episode on AGT, and let's just say I'm really happy that I got my 7 minutes on TV, and I'm really happy that it wrapped up there. I loved that experience, and honestly could talk. I could have a whole episode on AGT. But it was never something that was kind of on my radar. And although I'm so happy that it happened, like so incredibly happy, like how many people can say they performed for Simon Cowell and Sofia Vergara? Like what? It just was like the most random little thing that happened in the middle there. Um, and then yeah, COVID kind of hit, which was a big fat bummer. And I went back to Adelaide and did the Zoom things, and I turned 18 and all of that. And on the way out of COVID was when I really shifted into theatre, because my agent was kind of only getting briefs for musical theatre. And I very quickly realized that one, the theatre industry is a lot bigger than I thought it was in Australia. And two, if I wanted to work on stage, I was going to have to like go into musical theatre land. I can't say go back to my roots, but it kind of felt a bit full circle because theatre was what was getting me on stage the most as a kid in Adelaide as well. So kind of that. But yeah, I was really fortunate to quite quickly book my first show in Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. And still to this day, I say it's probably the best contract I've ever done. It was just like, I've never seen a role in that show that was more perfect for me. I was the raccoon slash ensemble, which was kind of like this featured ensemble track that got to do lots of flips and lots of dancing, lots of partnering, all things that were like really in my wheelhouse, especially at that time. And got some like really cool moments like presenting the shoes, and like I got to ride the carriage. I was the driver. Like, so that was really fun, really great first job. And I just remember being surrounded again by people that were like veterans of the industry that taught me so much about what it's like to be in a company and what it's like to be in a show and to do 8 shows a week. And I credit so many of those cast members and the leaders within that company for what I know now. And kind of, we'll talk about this a bit later, but you know, a lot of the advice that they have given me has really stuck with me over the years and helped me down the track. So I'm very grateful for my Cinderella crew and cast and family, and my time there. After Cinderella, I jumped straight onto Mamma Mia, the Australian tour, as a swing, which was awesome. That was my first time swinging, and I met some lifelong friends on that show. They're very, very special to me. So, I mean, who can have a bad time on Mamma Mia? Like, it's ABBA. The stakes are low. Like, it was the perfect show as well to learn how to swing on. That swing team were incredible. And yeah, just like good humans doing fun things. After that, I did West Side Story on Sydney Harbour. And I feel like for any boy in musical theatre that like dances, West Side Story is always one of those shows that you're like, I'll probably do that at some point. Like, I'd love to do that. But this was my first time stepping into a little bit more of a role. It was a very small role, let's not get it twisted, but I played Big Deal, and I had a lot of lines, and I was dealing a lot with comedy. And if you know West Side Story, it's not a very comedic show. It's actually a tragedy. Um, but it was really fun being this like little bundle of comedy and joy and like putting on my New York American accent. And then obviously the experience of being on Sydney Harbour. We had a stage that was like on the water, and the opera house and the bridge were in the back, and we had fireworks every night, and it would rain on us and we wouldn't cancel the show. And just like doing West Side Story in that setting was like, I ticked so many like bucket list goals off of my bucket list without even knowing that they were goals to start with. So that's another really, really special contract for me. And then I went through a phase where I was really focusing on dance teaching. There weren't many shows popping up. And I was like on that audition hustle. And Bonnie Lithgow brought over a pantomime. And I actually did that for about a month and a half. So I did Snow White in Sydney with the Ozpanto Bonnie Lithgow crew. And pretty soon after that finished, I jumped onto Elf the musical at the Sydney Opera House, which, again, I feel like I'm saying every contract special, but like Elf was probably the most special. After not working for so long, I was really grateful to be back on stage in the opera house, first of all, but the people on that show were the nicest people I've ever worked with. Like, I'm again, like Mum and Me, I met some of my best friends for life on that show. And that was really cool because it was the Australian premiere of Elf, but we used all Australian creatives. So the show was actually built on us. The choreo was built on us. Like, we'd come in and they'd scratch choreo and redo it, and then the director would be like, "Oh, well, what do you think? What do you feel?" And that was kind of an experience I hadn't fully had yet from a creative side. So that was really nice to kind of have my track that's like the Lewis track. So that was really cool. I got to be in the ensemble for that. And then now I'm swinging on Disney's Beauty and the Beast. I have been swinging. I'm about to hit, at this point in time, I'm about to hit maybe 7 months on the show, and I'm nearly done 200 shows on stage. So very cool. We are about to wrap up in Perth and have a little break before we go to Singapore for summer, and then Beauty and the Beast will be finished then. So yeah, I've been very fortunate to do lots of big shows and lots of different shows, but I guess this kind of gets me to now where I'm starting this podcast. And the reason why I'm starting this is I have learned so many amazing things from my peers and friends, and so many of the things that I think about when I'm at work, or tactics that I use when I'm swinging, or even just how to get myself through the week, stem from these stories that I've heard from my friends and, conversations I've had or advice that's been passed on. And I wanted to create this podcast to give those people a platform to share their knowledge firsthand. I mentioned before I teach lots of dance, and I kind of teach lots of full-timers at the moment that are about to go into the industry and want to be a professional, and they always ask, like, what's your biggest piece of advice, or what's something that you like learned on the job? And I'm like, I've found myself recently like reciting other people's advice that they've given me that now I'm giving someone. And I wanted to use this podcast as a way to kind of skip the middleman and hear people's advice direct from the source. So that's where Stage Left with Lou was kind of born. I've also worked with some really, really, really cool people along the way, and some of them have the most amazing stories to share, so I wanted to give them a platform to share that too. And yeah, now we're here. We're here. I really struggle with some podcasts sometimes when they're like 60 minutes, 90 minutes long. So all of my episodes are between like 20 and 25 minutes. They're like bite-sized conversations. We kind of chat briefly about people's journey and what kind of led them into the industry. And then we chat about the jobs they've had, the advice they've got to give, some stories that they might have to tell. And I can safely say every single episode I've done, I really, really love. I've listened to all of them about 3 or 4 times now, so I can safely say that there's lots of bites of wisdom, lots of really fun stories, and I can't wait for you all to hear them or watch them if you're watching this on YouTube. And yeah, I'm releasing volume 1 now, and I thought instead of kind of doing 1 episode a week, I'd just kind of release one, wait a few days, release the next until we get through all of the episodes in volume 1. And then there might be a little break, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, volume 2 will be coming out very, very soon. But you can stay up to date on all things Stage Left with Lou on the Instagram page, which is at Stage Left with Lou. And you can make sure that you're following me on Instagram too, at lewis.shilvock. And I will make sure that you stay super updated. You know exactly what's coming, and you don't miss any episodes, because I would hate for you to miss out on this. I hope this episode wasn't too awkward, because talking about yourself can be so strange, but I promise I'm not this awkward in all of the other episodes. My first episode with a guest is actually out right now, so you can finish this and go and listen or watch that episode with Tanika Anderson. She is one of the most incredible women I know, like dead set, wholeheartedly. She's a legend. And I couldn't think of a better person to start off with. So I will see you over there in that next pod. Make sure you stay connected on Instagram and enjoy Stage Left with Lou. I'm so happy this is finally happening. Woohoo!